Hello and welcome to this video. My name is David Thorne. In this video we're going to be talking all about how to master block elements in HTML and CSS. So if you don't know what block elements are, don't worry about it. We're literally going to dive right into the core principles of them right here and show you how they work, and basically it's super simple. All right, so what we have here is up the top, you see we have an H1, then an H3, and then we have a paragraph, and then we have another paragraph as well. Now the styling that I've added on the div is literally, let me just get rid of that, is literally only background color and outlines. All right, so there's no other formatting here. We can get rid of this inline here as well. That doesn't change anything. So there's no formatting, no width, no height, no margin, no padding, apart from the fact that I've added a little bit of padding to the body just to make it look a little bit nicer. That's the only thing that I've done, just to literally move this into the middle, right, for presentation purposes and instructional purposes. So other than that, we are looking at the items one after the other. Now, the most important part about block elements is that they take up the full width. And when I'm saying this div container that we've got here, right, we've got within inside of this mastering and then building blocks here, everything is taking up the full width all the time. Now, I haven't given the H1 and the H3 tags any background color, but I can just believe in me that they are taking up the full width. Now, they have intrinsic margin top and bottom on these, but we're not going to get into margin here. All right, so the space in between the paragraphs and the H1s, that's their margin that they have. All right, but just forget about for the time being. So this next one, we've got additional items. You can see here we've got a paragraph once again. This box shows that an unordered list items are all block items and take up the full width. Just like this paragraph once again, it takes up the full width and it pushes everything to the next line. All right. So it's very greedy and it doesn't want anything coming within inside of its boundaries. All right. So the unordered list, you can see that every single list item does exactly the same. It takes up the full width, just like the unordered list wrapper takes up the full width of its container, of its parent container, right? And the list items do that as well. And obviously their content just sits inside of it, to the left side of the text. So let's now move on to buttons. And once again, we've got an H4, takes up the full width. Haven't added any styling to it. And the margin between the paragraph, we've just spoken about that, and the paragraph takes up the full width once again because it is a block element, all right, and it takes up the full width. And we can see here we've got 4 buttons, and these are what called inline elements, all right, and it means that they will only take up the size that they take up. So the text, the button has some padding within inside of it, and some padding within inside of it to make it look a little bit nice, and has a border and a background color, but that's its default standard way it looks. But other than that, it doesn't take up any more room, and it doesn't push any other items to the next line. So it just sits in line, and it's in its name. It's an inline element. It's not inline block. It's just an inline element. So we can now see that some inputs, and once again the paragraph and the heading, as we just discussed in the previous ones, the input fields, and this doesn't matter whether it's email, password, or whatever, it's the same thing. They all will only take up as much size as they do, and they obviously have an intrinsic width as well. And they have other properties that are not relevant to this, but they only take up, and they don't force stuff onto a new line after it, and they don't take up the full width. Okay, so this is the important thing to understand. And now we've got spans, and spans are going to do exactly the same thing as well. They are inline elements. Now, inline elements, you cannot manipulate the width and height or the vertical margin and padding. This is what's the key point here, is you can't do. So we can just say here that margin top is equal to 100 pixels. You can see here nothing changes on the spans. All right. Now, if we say margin left is then 100 pixels as well, you can see that changes. You can change a inline an inline element's left or right or horizontal presence, basically, but you cannot change its vertical presence. Now we can put padding top in here to say 100 pixels just to demonstrate this as well, and you can see that because that's inside of it, it doesn't affect its outside presence, but that just affects its inside presence, okay? But the margin top affects its overall. So look, if we come here and say height is then 100, we can't do that, all right? And we say width is then 400 pixels. We can't do that. We can only basically, we can't affect its overall size. Now the padding is a little bit of a hack, but you saw that it went over the top of the other things. So this is all you've got to remember, is that something inline. We're not talking about inline block, we're just talking about inline, so display inline. Okay, so if you want to, so all divs and headings and paragraphs, lists, so unordered list and ordered lists and list items, these are all block elements, and they will take up the full width. This is the fundamental information that I wanted to pass on in this one video. There's a lot more to go into to understand it, but normally if there's any problems that you find and you're like, why is this not doing it, why can't I do that, and how do I then put something horizontally, how do I align something, there's a lot more to go into it. But this is basically the fundamental information that you have to understand, is whether an element is a block element or an inline element, all right? And there's another few other things to talk about, but we're not going to talk about in this video. Okay, with that said, I hope that I've given you a good introduction, a good understanding of mastering block elements in HTML stroke CSS, because we're not talking about CSS, but they have fundamental intrinsic values that you can manipulate with CSS. But if you don't use CSS, then they have their intrinsic values already. All right, so with CSS you can change an element from being a block element to an inline element, or an inline block element, and so on. But by default, they are either a block element or an inline element. But I'm going to do another video about inline block elements as well. All right, and also, yeah. Okay, with that said, thank you very much for watching. If you do have any comments or any concerns, please feel free to put them in the comment section down below. If you like it, please give it a like. It does help other people to find this one video. It supports the algorithm to push my videos out to other people. And these videos are just here for you to learn and for me to pass on for my information. So if you don't like it, please tell me what you didn't like about the video. It always helps me to create better videos for you and better videos for other people as well. If you want to subscribe to be notified of any new videos that I make, then tap that subscribe button and the bell. But you don't have to. It doesn't matter. It's all about hopefully that you learned something. With that said, there's going to be a video on the screen right now, which either I've recommended to you or YouTube, so feel free to watch even further. Right, I'll see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao, and goodbye.